John was a hard-working man, toiling every day to ensure his farm thrived. He had a young son named Tommy, who admired his father greatly and often mimicked his actions, hoping to grow up to be just like him. One sunny afternoon, John was busy fixing his old, reliable tractor. It was a crucial piece of equipment for the farm, and it needed to be in top shape for the upcoming harvest. As John tightened a particularly stubborn bolt, his wrench slipped, and his hand slammed into the metal frame. The sudden, sharp pain caused him to blurt out a string of words that were less than kind. Unbeknownst to John, little Tommy was nearby, playing with his toy cars in the dirt. The boy's ears perked. He didn't fully understand the words, but he remembered them. He looked up to see his father's frustrated expression and then returned to his play. A few days later, Tommy was outside playing with his friends. They were building a makeshift fort using old planks of wood and nails. In his eagerness, Tommy picked up a heavy piece of wood, but it slipped from his grasp and landed on his foot. The pain was sudden and sharp, just like his father's had been. Without thinking, Tommy repeated the words he had heard his father say. John, who was working nearby, heard his son's exclamation and was taken aback. He quickly went over to Tommy, helping him sit down and inspecting his foot. "Tommy," he said gently but firmly, "where did you learn to talk like that?" Tommy looked up at his father with innocent eyes and said, "I heard you say those words when you were fixing the tractor, Daddy." John felt a pang of guilt. He didn't realize that his moment of frustration had left such an impression on his son. Kneeling down to be at eye level with Tommy, John took a deep breath and said, "Tommy, I am sorry you heard me say those words. I shouldn't have used them." Tommy nodded, absorbing his father's words. John hugged his son tightly and promised himself to be more mindful of his actions and words in the future. Later that year, John was herding the cows when one of them acted stubbornly, refusing to move. Frustrated, John got mad and was rough with the cow, pushing and shouting at it until it finally obeyed. Unbeknownst to him, Tommy was watching from a distance, taking in his father's behavior once again. A few days later, John noticed Tommy playing rather rough with one of the puppies. He was pushing the puppy and shouting at it, trying to make it obey. Alarmed, John quickly went over and stopped his son. "Tommy," he said sternly but with concern, "why are you being so rough with the puppy?" Tommy looked up at his father, confusion and innocence in his eyes. "Dad, I was watching you with the cow. You were rough with it, so I thought that's what I should do." John felt guilty. His actions were teaching his son more than his words ever could. That night, John knelt beside his bed, his heart heavy with the awareness of his influence on Tommy. With tears in his eyes, he prayed earnestly, asking God to forgive him for his harsh words and actions. His prayer was genuine and heartfelt, filled with a desire to be a better father and a better man. Later that week, as John was putting Tommy to bed, he asked, "Tommy, would you like to pray tonight?" "Sure, Dad," said Tommy, his eyes lighting up. He knelt beside his bed, clasped his hands, and began to pray. His words were simple yet profound, filled with the sincerity and the innocence of a child. John listened, deeply moved by his son's heartfelt prayer. After Tommy finished, John, with the lump in his throat, asked, "Tommy, where did you learn to pray like that?" Tommy looked up at his father and said, "I saw you pray, Dad. I saw you pray that night when you were asking God to forgive you."